He told me about his personal saint, a goddamn leprechaun who visited him on his bedside. And I remember one time he said there was a hole in my head and there was a light coming down from the heaven, embracing me, putting me on a beach in the sun. And that wasn't going to help, you know. And this alcohol helped me want to destroy.
We're ready.
The act of insulting an audience was something that I always came to respect and learn something from.
Yo, just look so happy, you make me feel real sick inside. Yeah, all right, we're fooling around here, right? Glad to see you all got your uniforms on, right?
It was kind of refreshing because it was so... No one else really had the balls to do that in the hardcore scene. Everyone was just kind of... They wanted to be kind of angry, but there was like a fence where they just didn't pass. So... But... Thoughts of Ionesco is all about just breaking through that fence and just really having no limits whatsoever. He started bringing like this weird dark undertone of like all this self-destructive stuff and just started hating everyone. Just and this whole destroy the audience spiel, and you know, this is not entertainment, this is my trip and you're just here, and if you get hit or something happens to you, it's just kind of part of the experience.
Your new evolution. Here it is. Yeah, you're coming on the land.
Their set was amazing. It's totally horrifying. You see a lot of bands screaming their brains out, flailing around and breaking shit. It's like very few bands do actually believe it when you see it.
And sometimes when you have something really powerful that can't come out the way it should, it goes underneath and comes up another way.
Sean was crazy, and Brian was definitely crazy. Nathan was pretty normal, but by proxy, it made Nathan like nuts as well.
Actually, when I initially started playing with Sean and Brian, they didn't even want the band to leave the basement. I remember having to try to convince them of that. It was about playing music. We never tried to please or please anybody. Nothing was going on like that at the time in the Detroit area, so it took a while for it to catch on, but it didn't really matter either way. That was our approach. We took the long road for everything, our whole approach to music. You know, it's very self-righteous in that way. I mean, the moment the band even tried to set foot, we were cursed. Our first 3 shows were canceled, or the police showed up.
I think they actually played their first show at my house. I don't really remember that much about it other than the cops came. I do remember the Reaper actually destroying some of my things at the show.
Initially, I thought the music was a total blast of anger, resentment, and just the sound of tortured souls. You had this drummer who was certifiably insane, pairing up with this kid who worked on a golf course who didn't at first glance seem insane, but looked more insane to me the more I worked with him. And the legend is that these two guys met in a state home or some sort of asylum, and you know, the chemistry was cemented right there.
Like the lyrics and the passion, it was definitely not bullshit, and you could definitely see that they that it actually meant something. And I think that kind of really what fed into what made the band to be such like a masochistic and loathing experiences. It wasn't made up. It wasn't posturing. They actually had some shit. I don't know.
It was not just a role that we played on stage. We took that role into houses that we stayed at.
The whole party just erupts because Brian is in the back. Brian Reaper is in the back of my yard, destroying chairs, just throwing them into my house, through the window, through the screen, just whatever Cherry could get his hands on.
As soon as I got to the alcohol, I remember trying to destroy chairs in the backyard. There was a really good Dinosaur Jr. record on.
After the first song, Brian just, for whatever reason, just destroyed his drum kit.
Everyone was pumped up to see him, and then something upset Reaper quite a bit, and he destroyed his entire kit. First song, here they are, playing their show. First song, it's done. Equipment's all over the stage, destroyed. He's stomping on cymbals, throwing his snare into the wall several times.
He was jumping up and down on the cymbals, and it was like a fight where Sean was trying to hold him back, but he just wanted to beat the shit out of his own drum kit.
The best part was after he had done all that, he just kind of stepped off on stage, went up to a drummer from another band that was playing that night, and just without really asking, just took his gear, put it up on stage, set it up, and just finished the set on somebody else's drums. I remember watching that kid on the sidelines just biting his teeth, fingernails.
You know, I wasn't a victim. I was not a victim at all. You know, I'm just another fucking piece of shit, ignorant motherfucker who is stupid and deserves to die.
Any band that acts like the fools that they did obviously didn't do it to make a spectacle of themselves.
Sean and I were hanging out after the Thoughts of Ionesco set, and actually ended up with taking some other band's cymbal bag, and we're hitting each other with it. It probably weighed about 50 pounds.
We're staying upstairs in this attic room or whatnot. We were kind of the outcasts of this ska party.
It was always just really low-class beer, I think was the thing, like just malt liquor.
And we were hitting each other in the back with it. And I actually woke up the next day and I thought I was going to piss blood.
We were just going around, just drinking all the leftover beers, and Brian would be calling them ska pussies for leaving their half-full beers.
They constantly got stoned.
I remember Sean putting on a ski mask, taking off all of his clothes except for his Doc Martens, and he walks down to this party butt naked with this ski mask on, his dick flapping around.
Brian Reaper came with Jason, like, tied up with a chain and a whip, like he was his little pet animal.
The guy who owned the bar came out with a tray full of shots and said, "Have fun."
Brian, out of the blue, just takes his beer bottle and just throws it at the bar.
And by the time that I walked upstairs, everything was a mess.
So we get kicked out of this bar after paying a like $150 tab. That's just the beginning of it.
And Brian is like face down on the floor, screaming exploited lyrics.
Go back to my house and start doing an assortment of hard drugs because I was living with this dealer at the time.
Everyone would just crowd around Reaper because he would just talk, and like he didn't know what he was talking about, but it was almost like stand-up comedy. But to him, it was his real conversation. I'm not kidding.
Either something started kicking in or medication started wearing off, and then I heard those screams behind me like some crazed war veteran who was waking up in the middle of a nightmare. And I would just look back and see this kid screaming up into the ceiling like he heard or knew about something up there that the rest of us didn't.
I had always been trying to put out my records on my own without working a job, with delivering pizza, with just like scrounging by like a dirt ass. I'm pretty much doing the same thing at this point. They recorded a new record, and I wanted to put that out, but they wouldn't let me put that out, so they let me put out their demo. It kind of made my head hurt. I kind of got sick to my stomach, honestly, the first time I heard it. Well, they don't really care about selling records, and the record label has to sell records to support the band, but the band didn't really care about playing out or selling records. They were just working on their music. Anyone else was just kind of like on the sidelines. I've seen the band drunk many times, but it was pretty much a normal thing.
When I drink alcohol, and when I drink alcohol, it helps me embrace the destruction that I wanted to, and that I really wanted to become a part of. I wanted to destroy everyday communication.
like it was the politics of self-destruction as a band, like all the masochism, like destroying things, just being totally antisocial. And it actually spread to the few people that actually enjoyed, like, or they would allow to socialize with them. You kind of would pick up on just this just like totally nihilistic worldview.
Sometimes the band would be so loose, like playing because maybe they were so drunk or they were upset or they had not gotten any sleep or they were on pills or...
A crucifix is hung for every bad thing she's seen. My mother, I keep on living on.
After a few drinks or whatever, it would completely turn into what wouldn't they do? They would hang off the rafters in show spaces. They would smash into people. They'd break their equipment. They'd openly insult anyone. They really didn't care about anyone. In fact, I think the only people that they didn't completely offend constantly would be maybe like some of the guys from Wallside.
Bottles of fermented urine thrown at our face at stoplights. No respect.
Sean calmly walking up at a red light, calmly walking up to my side, and you know, I'm rolling with the window as fucking fast as possible, and he comes up with a bag that, you know, you'd like put fruit in, and there was a mixture of things. There was a urine, there was dump in there because someone dumped in the loft. Someone took a shit in a bag. I think it was Sean, and he just kind of came up and right on the rearview mirror, and it was the killer shot.
Bag of shit.
It was the winning shot because we couldn't take it that far.
There was this show in New Jersey on this ill-fated tour, and there were not many people looking on, and Sean was real sick.
Oh yeah.
Throwing up. But there was nothing left in the stomach. A little bit of bile. Just middle of a song, just dry heaving.
I mean, there's no way.
These kids just looking at each other. A few that had the nerve to stick around.
There's lots of people like Coltrane. There's lots of people like Black Flag. They typically are not the same people.
John Coltrane, Albert Eiler, Swans. Maybe a touch of Black Flag.
Oh, girl, I don't want your body, you know that. I want your mind. I want to crawl inside and wreck your little life. I want you to come inside and wreck my little fucking world. My life! My life! My life! Come on. Oh, I just want to know you. I just want to be a good person. I just want to be a good person.
Before the show, Brian was backstage. If there was a stage, there was some sort of side area behind the stage, and he had punched down or broke down like all the drywall in the entire like area. And I think that was the same show where they decided to, some glass got broken on the floor, and him and Will got in this like homosexual embrace on the floor with a cigar and some glass, and there was blood.
In this instance, there's only one man that I can quote. And that's Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, and God knows it was the worst of times.
Did you see me go up to the counter and pay for it? Is what I'm asking you. No, I didn't pay.
Did you fucking steal it?
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Did you
No,
get
I
one?
didn't steal shit. I wanted to steal one of those shirts they had over there. Dangerous Curves. They had a fucking good-looking brunette chick on a shirt with cleavage and a bike underneath it, you know? And like a wolf above it, like, ow! You don't want to come near me? You want to come near me when you got a fucking camera, bitch? Didn't see you coming over without a fucking camera. Film me. Why don't we go in the fucking bathroom? Then I'll film you. With a pair of fucking rubber gloves on. You know what I'm saying? That was like she says, film me in a very seductive way. Was that a cry for I want to rent out a shower and fucking go in there and pull off some moves?
Got 'em, man. Look at these prices, though, you know? That ain't right. You know what I'm saying to you?
Made the ugly so ugly that it became beautiful.
I really feel horribly for the homosexual children that are in the world, you know, that have nobody to turn to. And they should have been the ones doing exactly what Thoughts of Ionesco was doing, you know, but maybe they didn't have enough anger to do that.
Breaking strings left and right. Maybe they would play 3 songs. The PA would short out. Nathan broke his bass in half while he was playing, and he told me he kind of blacked out when he was doing it.
Then the baked bass player. What more can you say about him? Nice guy. Spent as much time out in the alley burning stuff as he did playing bass in the goddamn booth.
I remember seeing him rip the strings off of a bass one time at a show, and him huffing and puffing. And then I asked the vocalist of my band, what did he think about that? And I don't know. We both agreed that he looked like a neurotic animal that was having a emotional problem.
playing his drums so hard he'd crack his cymbals and throw them across the room, step on them, drive, 10 hours to a show and have 10 people there, play their hearts out.
There were two geniuses that came through that band while in our existence. Brian Repa.
All I know is I fucking ate my own fucking shit.
Everything he touches, every environment that he could ever be in becomes a work of living art.
That grass! On reality, it was just fuck! That's what it was. It was just fuck! That was fucking reality!
And then you had Derek Grant, who played drums after him, who is a musical genius.
Derek was a complete musical genius.
Suffice it to say, I was really confused at what the hell was going on. But Repa ended up leaving, and we rehearsed and eventually wrote some music.
Even though I spent less than a year in the band, it proved to be a very challenging and troubled experience, both musically and personally. Sean had turned me on to a lot of great music. Mahavishnu Orchestra, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, a lot of jazz that I had never really been into, as well as putting me back in touch with some of my roots in Black Sabbath and Black Flag. A lot of aggressive music, a lot of expressive music, and that's really what fueled us. It didn't really seem strange to me to go from a band like the Suicide Machines to a band like Thoughts of Ionesco, just like it doesn't seem strange to me to be playing in Alkaline Trio as opposed to Thoughts of Ionesco. I think there was definitely a tension that existed when I was playing with the band that drove the music. It was a very rigorous and challenging time for me as a musician, and I think we made some pretty amazing stuff.
There's one that touches my heart, and that is the Skin Historic album.
I heard a story about Sean shitting in a box in the van because he didn't want to pull over and use a proper facility, and it just sat in the van for a few days and it was just rancid.
Well, first off, Sean was pretty stern about pulling over for people to piss.
The mission was to never stop on the road. Never.
The only time you stop is when you run out of gas. And there was a cardboard box in the van. And one of the members, who may or may not be named Sean, had to take a shit. But he refused to stop the van. Refused. So he pulled down his pants, tried to create a bowel movement in a cardboard box.
I'm driving, of course, as usual. So like, I'm driving the van, and like I see he's like leaned over the seat, and he's using something to urinate in. He wouldn't even stop.
He slipped down, and he's just got urine just running down his leg.
Yeah, the tour in 1997 was pretty amazing. Sleeping in truck stops, half naked, trying to keep cool. Shirts hanging from windows, trying to block the sun. The van smelled fucking awful. Just reeked of shit and booze from the night before.
We go to this rave and buy more drugs.
And I was sleeping in the back on the floor. There's a filthy carpet inside this conversion van that had little to no seats in it, and a boombox strapped to the dashboard for our listening pleasure. And I awoke to the smell of pot. And up until this point, Sean had been coy about his drug usage around me for whatever reason, and chose to reveal that to me in the van moments before we were pulled over.
Sean kind of pulls out of his sockless shoe. He pulls out a little bag. I see literally about 9 cop cars.
I think when the cop first pulled us over, when he came up to the window of the van, they tried to really put the pressure on Nathan and get him to fess up to having any illegal substances in the van, but he held his ground.
He gives me a big explanation about how the toenail clippers can be considered a weapon due to the fact that there's a file and you can stab somebody in the heart.
Ultimately, they took us all out and they brought the dogs in, and I think they knew what was up, but they couldn't find anything.
A canine unit pulls up with this guy in full camo and camouflage, and he's got this orange ball, which signals the dog what to do. And they go through our vehicle and they search our vehicle.
I remember afterwards Sean saying that when they asked him to get out of the van, that he thought about running.
Say a prayer for me. Say a prayer for me before you pull the trigger. Say a prayer for me before you light the match. Turn me into you. Turn me into you. Give me all. Turn me into you.
And then eventually the return of Reaper and the rebirth of Thoughts of Ionesco led to the ultimate demise of Thoughts of Ionesco.
And somehow, out of nowhere, Brian's back in the band for the 3rd time.
Straight up, Brian was the best. Brian was the heaviest. Brian was the most. I think Brian was the most creative. Brian was the most. He totally fit into the complete lunatic groove of the band.
Hey man, you want to come in and have some muscle relaxers?
Look good. Hey, I think I might need a pick-me-up because I feel about as down as I sound, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't feel right. Ta!
practiced relentlessly all the time. And even if they weren't practicing as a band, you'd show up at the lofts and like Sean would be working on songs and just like there by himself all hours of the night.
The thing about that band is people talk about the shows and stuff, but I think some of the sickest moments in the band were in the practice space.
Oh, the Loft in Redford, that place is pretty much legendary. So many bands have practiced there.
I think they practice constantly, and I think that's kind of what led to their practice space being one of the foulest, most disgusting places I've ever been in my life. Most bands will try to personalize the space and put up like some obscure picture or do something that kind of puts their personal stamp on it. There was no decorations or anything of that sort in their practice space. Just a shopping cart and like broken equipment and just piles of empty beer cans and a seat from their van and a rotten stench.
We've made it into the lofts. This is where we used to rehearse. We think it was this door. Well, I don't remember.
We had a rehearsal space above a Big Lots in Redford, Michigan, and he was basically living there, garbage picking televisions and making recordings of himself smashing them inside the room, beating on sheet metal while on acid and plastic gallons full of vodka, Mad Dog liquor, peanuts. Those guys were living off peanuts for a while up there.
But anyway, I don't know, there were some fucking sessions up there, and there was piss and bottles, there was peanuts, there was shit all over the fucking floor. There was a fucking drum.
Beat on sheets of metal. Collect TVs.
Brian would be just banging on metal things on the floor, howling and screaming with like pipes and just making noise, and that was his practice.
I don't know, tribal drums to me seem like a pretty fucking interesting way to fucking lose your mind on drugs and alcohol. Squirrel with his little fucking pseudo fucking Miles Davis cornet. Wasn't even a fucking trumpet, for fucking Christ's sake. Little man, little tune, little pedal.
Do this one thing for me. Do this one thing for me. I'm on my knees. I wanna know, do you love me? Do you love me? Love! Do you love me? Well, do this for me. Hurt me! Make it know it's real! Hurt me! Fuck a man in the world! Hurt me! Don't use your body! Don't use your body! Use your hate! Your hate! Use your hate! I'm weak! Hurt me! I'm pathetic! Hurt me! Fuck me with your hate! Fuck me, let me know you're there! Let me know that you care! I wanna suffer! Suffer! For you!
Any other band in this town, and plenty of other bands in this town, and I'm sure beyond, were jealous of Thoughts of Ionesco and the rabid fan base they had. It seems like the only people who weren't really valuing the fan base at all was the actual band, who seemed to exhibit some uncomfortable contempt for the audience anytime I'd go to watch them play.
At their popularity prime in the area, so many kids would just come out to see them because they didn't know what the band was going to do next. And they had a fan base, but it was almost like an anti-fan base because a lot of people didn't like them, but they would still come to the shows because they wanted to see what kind of crazy stuff would happen.
Thoughts of Ionesco were, especially Sean, was amazingly efficient at alienating kids and making them leave a gig wondering why they were being picked on for just showing up and supporting his band.
One thing that was constantly projected onto the band was misanthropy. But I'm here to set something straight. That word is interchangeable with transcendence.
Honestly, the only way they would have been happy is if David Yao and Michael Gira were the only two people who showed up to watch them, and if they just sat in the back reading the newspaper, that would have been perfect for them. Everything else was like it was. They weren't interested in being like a performance. They didn't want it to be a shtick. I mean, I don't want it to sound pretentious, but it really was more along the lines of art for them.
Pure rage and passion.
He was just playing drums and he just took out a knife and cut his arm and kept screaming. He was bleeding while he was playing and it was going all over his snare. I don't know.
Kind of slashed his arm a couple times. One was really deep, and then another one was sort of deep, and then there was just a couple little cuts, and it was really in between, like feedback noise, kind of between songs. And he just kind of flipped it out. There was a couple of ahs, like from people in the crowd and stuff, because you actually saw like his skin split, and like you could see the fat cells.
I went to collect our guarantee, and we weren't going to get paid due to the fact that Sean was hanging from the ceiling, kicking holes in the ceiling, punching himself in the face, punching the ceiling. Brian was cutting himself with a knife. There's blood going everywhere. Little people were crying.
Disconnecting voluntary thought from the body and mind.
Sean would play a couple chords, and then he'd run at the drywall and punch holes into it.
Sean would be like just punching concrete walls and just smashing into everyone.
At this one show, Sean decided to hang himself from the rafters and threw his guitar through the wall, threw the mic stand through the wall. And James was there, the owner, and he got really pissed off, and they just told him to fuck off. They didn't even care.
When Sean wasn't hell-bent on punching holes in the drywall or swinging from the rafters of the venue over the stage and basically destroying shit, he pretty much started, sweep kicking microphone stands and everything out of the way. And I was trying to get him a nice live recording to document the coolest thing about the band, which was their live performance. And unfortunately, Sean sabotaged that.
People showed up for the show and were out of control. And the show ended with some skinheads had shown up, and some words were exchanged, and a brawl broke out. People punching each other, running around across the room, just fucking chaos. And the set ended and everyone kind of spilled out into the street. And skinheads are punching dudes. Dudes are fucking triple teaming these fucking meatheads. And then like all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, fucking like the cops haven't even shown up yet, and fucking the Reaper is running around with a fucking hammer, like chasing fucking dudes. And like, even though everybody else was like already fighting, it was like, what the fuck? And then the cops came and it was a fucking disaster.
He couldn't come up to the band afterwards and talk to him for 15 minutes because they were sitting on the floor, sweating, and half their equipment was broken on the ground.
As beasts, we pin each other to crosses.
I do believe we inspired some freaks to come out and see us.
This guy was on television, and I guess he had murdered or molested someone or something, and he had a Thoughts of Ionesco windbreaker on. A bunch of the local kids had him, and that made the news, and we thought that was pretty odd.
During the recording of the last record, Brian Reaper and I went on